Morning glory and evening grace, America. I'm Hugh in Studio West. Welcome to today's program, the first full day of the golden age of America after Donald Trump's inauguration yesterday and the Ohio State University Buckeyes' magnificent win last night against a very talented Fighting Irish team. More on that later. Three big stories I want to cover in my opening monologue. Number one, Elon Musk did not give a Nazi salute. Anyone who suggests or implies otherwise is either ignorant or willfully engaging in the defamation of Mr. Musk. Only someone suffering from TDS could look at that entire video and conclude that Elon Musk gave a Nazi salute. If you have someone in your timeline who says that he did, block them or do as I do, mute them, because they are not reliable sources of news, facts, information. Number two, birthright citizenship. I believe this has been asked and answered, and that the president's executive order will be the occasion for the Supreme Court to expand and clarify the 1898 decision of Wong Kim Ark. In 1898, Wong Kim Ark left the country. He had been born of non-citizen but legal resident parents and left the United States and was barred from reentering under the mistaken belief that he was not naturalized, was not a citizen pursuant to the 14th Amendment. He was. The Supreme Court decided that in 1898. Now, what they have never had before them is a case of the child of two parents in the country illegally. That is, they entered without permission. Wong Kim Ark's parents had permission. They were legally domiciled in the United States. That having been said, I believe the Supreme Court will quickly dispatch this because of the reliance on birthright citizenship, which is systemically imbued in our system and has long been the rule of law in the United States. It is not without a discussion. There will be some interesting opinion. There might be some dissents, but I believe the Supreme Court will uphold birthright citizenship, and I believe that the president's executive order on this precipitates that. To the January 6 pardons. First, some facts. I'm going to rely on NBC News for these facts because I haven't read the EO in which the president issues his 14 commutations and his 1,500 pardons. I don't know the specifics. I do know the defense counsel for 55 of the J6 defendants, and I have long been concerned that some of the 1,500 were very badly abused by the Department of Justice, and some of them deserve very long prison sentences, those convicted of seditious conspiracy. I want to use the numbers, though, provided by NBC. NBC tells us this was the largest FBI investigation ever, with more than 1,500 people charged, more than 1,000 defendants after the charging. I know what happened to the 500. Quote, many low-level riot defendants were sentenced to probationary periods having been convicted of misdemeanor offenses like parading inside the Capitol, close quote. About 700 defendants who either never received prison sentences or who have already completed their sentences, meaning pardons or commutations would have very little impact on their lives, beyond restoring voting rights, gun rights of those who were convicted of felonies. More than 600 people were sentenced to incarceration of the 1,500, but only a small fraction are still behind bars. And so there's a thunderstorm of facts here, and I don't know how to categorize the 1,500. I have long told members of Congress that everyone who rioted needed to be prosecuted because it was a very dark day in American history. I have also long said there is always going to be prosecutorial misconduct when you try and overcharge. I listened to the commentary podcast this morning, and Eli Lake of the Free Press said on the commentary podcast, hundreds of people were overcharged. I already knew that. The Supreme Court already held that. The Supreme Court already held that some of the statutes that were brought against some of the J6 defendants were, in fact, illegitimately charged. I also know that the fruit of the poison tree is deep within our due process system. That is, that evidence which is obtained by unconstitutional searches and seizures or other intimidation tactics may not be put into evidence. I don't think, and I've said many times, the J6 committee was a fraud. It was a fraud because Nancy Pelosi rejected Jim Banks, now senator from Indiana, as the duly appointed chair that Kevin McCarthy selected, and she appointed two of the minority's members, Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. That was a breach of House rules, and I believe everything that flowed out of that committee is illegitimate. If it was used in any of these proceedings, it ought not to have been allowed as illegitimately obtained evidence. I don't know, nor am I interested in getting into the 1,500. I think I'm not an advisor to President Trump. I'm not. I would have advised him, do not commute the sentences of those who are convicted of seditious conspiracy. There are some very bad people in that group. However, I understand the decision by the president to move forward quickly to other issues and to declare early on, we're not looking backwards, we're looking forwards. Many of these people have been held under very, very onerous conditions. Many people are wrongfully charged, and I have talked at length with the defense counsel that I know, and you can follow him over at Shipwreck Crew on X. Long time, 22 years as an AUSA. He's a prosecutor, married to law enforcement. He knows his stuff. If I ever get in trouble, I'm calling up him, or I'll call Judge Larson. I am not comfortable with letting the very, very bad people out of jail, but the president swept and he got it off his desk. It would have been preferable, in my view, to have assigned that task to a very serious lawyer to go through very quickly, with 30 days. Come back to me with those who deserve pardons, those who deserve commutations, those who deserve clemency of some sort, and I'll sign the order. He didn't. He got it out of the way, and I think he may have been motivated, at least in part, by the sweeping number of pardons and commutations, some of them preemptive, issued by former President Biden yesterday and the day before, including Leonard Peltier, who ought never to be out of jail. He executed 2 FBI agents, right? Never should have been allowed. I don't know who in the world suggested this. There isn't a chance on this planet that Joe Biden knows what he was doing yesterday. Here's my bottom line. Due process requires that one set of law and regulation apply to everyone. You don't find the person and then seek out a crime. You find the crime and seek out the persons. Not everyone who entered the Capitol had a guilty conscience, mens rea. Not everyone who entered can be justly accused of rioting. They wandered in and they wandered out. But some who came into the Capitol did so with the intent to murder or maim. And I think that is a grave error to allow those people out of prison. Nevertheless, I understand what the president did. He is sweeping stuff off the desk because we are in a war with the Chinese Communist Party. It's a Cold War, not a hot war. We're in a war with Iran. We're in a war with Russia. We're in a war with North Korea. It's a Cold War, not a hot war, though it is a hot war for Ukraine. We have to focus and execute. And I have had it, absolutely had it, with the legacy media's corrupt reporting of everything to do with Donald Trump. And they're putting this to the top of page 1 after Joe Biden pardoned 5 members of his own family and a murderer of FBI agents. No, I'm sorry, a clemency for the murderer of the FBI agents, commuting the sentence. And get over it. It's done. Let's move forward. Let's focus on the future. Let's focus on prosperity and freedom and protecting our cities. I come in a little bit hot today because I happen to have seen another example at Columbia University of anti-Semitic behavior. The invasion of a classroom where they're teaching the history of modern Israel by masked protesters who disrupted the students and would not leave, right? Prevented the teaching, the mission of the university. If I were Donald Trump, I would ask my acting Attorney General McHenry to immediately dispatch lawyers from the Division of Civil Rights and FBI agents to Columbia to track down and find those people who are doing that because it violates our civil rights laws, to intimidate on the basis of race. And that's what the anti-Semites are doing. I would also direct the acting Secretary of Education, whose name I do not know, to dispatch investigators from the Office of Civil Rights to Columbia to begin a new investigation, de novo, into the systemic anti-Semitism at that campus and prepare to cut off all funding to Columbia. All, not one federal dollar as a sanction. They can fix this. They choose not to. We've had an abundance of evidence. So I throw all this at you in the first 10 minutes to let you know it's going to be a fast and furious 4 years. And I'm looking forward. I'm not looking backwards. I will bring you news as it happens, including a stabbing attack in Tel Aviv this afternoon, which is truly horrific. But of the 4 people stabbed, only 1 is in serious condition. The terrorist is dead. The terrorist was an American green card holder. So I want you to understand there are people in this country who are very, very bad actors, and we have to get them out. We have to deport them, and we cannot give them green cards. And we have to get serious about the rule of law and the prevention of additional abuses. But rioting at the Capitol is not something that should be condoned. Republicans should not be afraid to say that. But at the same time, I understand what Donald Trump did yesterday, which is to cut the rope and move forward. It's an old story now. It's over. And now we look forward.